Well, back to the old drawing board.
Testing out a new mic. Thought I'd talk a little bit about ash dieback, nice Korean firs. Pretty cool trees there. Quite formal, and no real pruning required. First time I found out how to recognise ash, I thought they were straggly and quite rubbishy kind of trees, but this was like years and years ago, and I figured out to myself that I'd only seen ash with dieback on them. So since 2012 ash dieback's been in the UK, and it's kind of a bugger of a disease really, especially for the ash tree. The ash tree is it takes a long time to come to seed, so it can be like 30 odd years. This tree here is about 20 years old, and it's suffering to say the least. It's classic ash dieback symptoms. This is summertime. These buds haven't even pushed, and you get these dark leaves, spreads all the way. This is actually broken off already, and of course those leaves go onto the ground. This is a fungus. It's worth studying a bit of the epidemiology of disease. This disease is another one that's been brought from Asia because of our incessant requirement to import Asian plants such as those Korean firs. But it's classic really. This tree here, you can see it's pushing all these epicormic buds, just trying to recover, but unfortunately it's a goner. The canopy's completely ruined. It could take a few seasons. It's a very sad thing really. It's a fungus, this disease. It's not like some other diseases like Phytophthora and things like that, which are single-celled oomycete kind of things. This is a fungus, and it was bought from ash in Asia, and the Asian ash tree, it's not pathogenic with the Asian ash tree. It lives with it fine, and it lives in its leaves and consumes leaf tissue, but the European ash can't cope, and unfortunately they're finding now, especially in forestry, up to 75-80% of the trees are dying. But the good thing about ash is that it is an obligate outcrosser. So that means that it's because it's got male and female trees, it has to cross-pollinate with a tree of different genetics. So it makes its seed more genetically diverse than trees like the elm that we're used to hearing about, this Dutch elm's disease. Elms are lucky though, because they seed early in life, and the epidemiology of Dutch elm's disease was such that it attacked older trees, so the younger trees had time to come to seed. Not the case with ash. This fungus attacks young and old trees, so really if the young trees all die before they can produce seed after 30 years, then the ash population's in big trouble. But it's predicted. One of the guys at Aberdeen Uni said, and several other high-standing people in tree science said that we have 10 years and then all of the ash will either be dead or injured. This was, I think, 5 or 8 years ago, something like that. So I've just been waiting, and looking at the data coming out of Europe right now, it looks like there's a lot of resistance built into the population, which makes sense because this genus, Fraxinus, if it's resistant in Asia and it's an obligate outcrosser, it puts it in a very good situation to be able to recover from something like this. But according to data in Europe, we're going to lose, especially in forestry, we're going to lose up to 80% of our ash trees. So what happens is this fungus penetrates the leaf tissue. By the way, this one's suffering as well. Not quite as bad. The Tree Council has a system whereby they classify trees. This tree maybe would be classed as class 3 or maybe 4. I think class 4 is 25% of the canopy left, so it's probably class 3, that one. And that allows you to make decisions as to whether to remove the trees. And of course with amenity trees it doesn't really matter, and it's not like something like foot and mouth where you have to sanitize everything and you have to limit the spread of the spores. This fungus spreads on the wind and is impossible really to stop. So there's no point in sanitization for the purposes of this particular disease. There's every point in sanitization if you go to a woodland though, if you're picking up sticks and whatever, because there's other diseases that can be transferred. Larch, now the Forestry Commission in Scotland is not planting any larch because of the Phytophthora, and this is something that can be, this Phytophthora ramorum is an absolute bugger and can be transferred very easily on bike tyres, on dogs, on sticks. But anyway, what happens is, it's very difficult for me to see this in these trees. Anyway, they're 20 odd years old. They're going to die within the next few seasons, or be very, very sick indeed. So the fungus lives in the leaves, and the European Fraxinus, the European ash, is not capable of stopping the fungus going to the stem tissue, and it works its way down the stem into the inside of the tree and goes all the way down, and just destroys blocks the xylem up. So you'll see trees wilting. The xylem transfers water up, so the tree can't transfer as much water as it should be able to, and slowly degrades. And sometimes it's not slow, just a few seasons. There's also co-infection, so these trees I'm not seeing any signs of it. The base of these trees looks relatively healthy, but there's co-infection with honey fungus, because honey fungus won't attack any live wood, but it does attack dead wood, and as soon as the wood dies at the bottom, the honey fungus gets in. And the way the Callara fungus, which is the ash dieback, in fact it's called Hymenoscyphus fraxineus, I believe. They renamed it because they found that it was particular to ash. The way that gets in is, there's not many dead leaves I can reach on this one right now, but see those dead leaves as they drop down in the winter onto the floor here. These carry the fungus, and you might see fruiting bodies later on in autumn time. Even now you can see some hairs and whatnot. You might see the fruiting bodies. They're kind of white things that look like little mushrooms coming out, and they go onto the ground and overwinter. Then the spores are a very high concentration on the ground, so they get into the tree that way, through these huge lenticels. The trees like ash and cherry have very large lenticels. This is a better example over here. And lenticels are just their pores that allow the gas exchange, so they allow the trunk to breathe really. These holes, and they go right into the centre of the tree. Now there's no need to worry so much about amenity trees, but if you've got ash in a forest, you want to really be trying to capture the value that you have by just removing a load of these trees. The wood will not be saleable. And look at this one, it's hardly affected, and yet just across the way we've got severe. Different environment though. In fact, those ones should be more protected over there because there's less humidity on the ground. Here is more, well, I guess there's a pseudo woodland condition, but that tree looks very good. You can see here we've got 4 equal age. All of these trees are the same age. 4 ash here in different situations. Even the one that looks good is actually wilting. So what does this fungus do to the wood? Ash is not really used anymore in the UK very often. I mean, it's used now for flooring and things, but it used to be used for cool things like making sporting equipment and even car frames, because it's so flexible and yet it doesn't break very easily. So it absorbs a lot of, and of course it looks nice, it absorbs a lot of energy. It looks nice because it's a pale kind of wood, and therein lies the rub really, because this pale kind of wood is what it's famous for, and this fungus is destroying that wood. It gets right into the sapwood, the heartwood, right the way through the trunk. But there's another tree just down the road, an ash, suffering with something else, which could be confused, I guess, with ash dieback, but it's a very cool tree. Let's go and have a look. I just repositioned the mic and see if it's any better. That right there is a maple. Beautiful trees, maples. This is what I do, I just go around looking at trees. There's the boy there. Unbelievable. I just went to see a man about a tree. And he was saying to me, stop worrying about trees. But you kind of can't. And he was talking about his kids and how his kids have not really grown up how he wanted them to grow up, and his wife was saying, oh, they're completely their own people. I mean, you tell them one thing, they do another thing. And I was thinking to myself, trees are the bloody same thing. I said, you set a framework of branches when they're really young, and you hope that those branches will be able to sustain them into old age, mechanically sound and whatnot. But they always do stuff. They grow in different directions and make bad growth decisions, and then they, hopefully, that framework it mitigates all of these bad decisions. Anyway, this ash tree, pretty damned amazing. There's literally nothing left of the heartwood inside. I saw this tree first in winter and I thought it was dead, and then came back in summertime and it's just amazing. It's almost got no heartwood left at all. So probably this is the best angle. No heartwood, but maybe a little sign of dieback. At the top you can see some branches are bare, but really looks amazingly healthy considering it's just completely hollowed out. And it looks even better in the winter time because you can see the ramification of the branches and whatnot. But amazing, it's just got cambium, some active cambium each side, and then the middle is just completely gone. Could have been hit by lightning, could be very, very old and rotted away, but an awesome tree nonetheless. I forgot to mention, in fact, the chestnut. So chestnut in the UK, the council now is removing a lot of damaged or dying chestnut trees because we have this unfortunate bacteria in the Pseudomonas family that's ravaging these poor chestnut trees. And we also have a particular type of moth here that defoliates these trees and weakens them to the extent that they suffer with this Pseudomonas bacteria. So it's important to look at the epidemiology of disease. What causes the disease? How is it caused? How is it moved around? How is it vectored? Because this gives an indication and allows prediction of what might happen, you know, and how to mitigate it and either continue to make money if you're a forester, or just generally protect trees. Interesting stuff.